The underground parking garage was cold and silent, wrapped in the stillness of a late autumn night. Fluorescent lights buzzed dimly overhead, casting long shadows between the rows of concrete columns. It was nearly midnight, long past the time when most employees had left. The echo of approaching footsteps broke the silence. Elena Rivera walked slowly, her heels traded for flats. Her white blouse hung loose from her slacks, the edges wrinkled from a long day. A gray trench coat draped around her shoulders, and her usually polished hair was tucked back messily, strands falling out of place. She looked less like the CEO of Rivera Global Holdings and more like a tired analyst, which was exactly her intention. This division of her company had been struggling. Elena had decided to visit in secret, leaving her title at the door, calling herself just Elena to see how the branch really worked when no one was watching. Tonight, after hours of tense meetings, she was ready to leave quietly. But something stopped her. A flicker of light shimmered from the far corner near the security booth. She turned her head. It wasn't the harsh glow of overhead bulbs. It was a weak, flickering flashlight. As she walked closer, Elena saw a young man, hunched over a small table, the light balanced awkwardly against a thermos. He was scribbling notes into a battered notebook, his brow furrowed in concentration. He didn't notice her at first. "Always work under that light." Elena's voice was soft. The man startled, glancing up quickly before standing. He wore a Navy security jacket unzipped over a hoodie, his hair dark and slightly unkempt. Despite his surprise, his voice was calm. "Sorry, ma'am. Didn't hear you." "Yeah, flashlight's old, but I make it work." Her eyes flicked to the thick textbook in front of him. "Advanced C++? He gave a faint, almost embarrassed smile. "Trying to finish my certification. I had to drop out of school a while ago, but I promised my little brother I'd go back. Wanted him to see it's possible." Elena's throat tightened. For a moment, she was a little girl again, sneaking downstairs to watch her father study auto manuals at the kitchen table after long shifts at the shop. She stepped closer, gently setting a protein bar from her coat pocket on the table, and then, after a pause, pulled a small book from her bag. Understanding Algorithms, a Practical Guide. "You don't have to," he began. "I know," she interrupted softly. "But I want to." The man hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Darren Lopez," he introduced himself. "Elena," she replied simply, withholding her last name. That was the first night. Elena began parking farther from the elevators, closer to Darren's post. She had no reason to. Her reserved space was nearer. But she found herself drawn there. Over time, their short greetings turned into conversations. Darren was quiet but thoughtful. He talked about books, coding, and his younger brother Mateo, who had just earned a scholarship. Elena found herself laughing. Real laughter, not the polite kind she used in boardrooms. With Darren, she didn't have to measure every word. Then came the rain. One night, as she hurried toward her car, cold drops spilled through the open garage entrance. Before she could react, Darren appeared, shrugging off his security jacket and draping it over her shoulders. "You'll catch something," he said simply. The fabric was warm, smelling faintly of coffee and soap. Elena clutched it, her heart oddly unsteady. Another evening, she watched Darren guide a lost delivery driver across the garage. It wasn't his job, but he did it patiently, flashlight in hand. No one would ever notice, but Elena did. That night, she realized something. Darren helped people not for credit, but because it was right. A week later, Elena carried an old laptop down to his booth. "It's a mess," she said casually. "Freezes. Blue screens. Thought you might enjoy the challenge." Darren hesitated. "I don't have the tools." She shrugged. "If you don't have time, no worries." He stopped her. "I didn't say no. Just might take a while." 3 nights later, the laptop purred like new. "You rebuilt the system," Elena said, astonished. "I streamlined it," Darren replied simply. "Kept the essentials, cut the fluff." She smiled softly. He had no idea it had been a silent test, and he had passed with quiet excellence. It started with a photo. Someone snapped a blurry picture of Elena and Darren walking side by side in the garage. It appeared on the company's internal chat with cruel captions. "Scurity Gaurd aiming high, huh? Guess he's good at more than night shifts." By morning, Whispers filled the hallways. Darren saw it too. At first, he told himself not to care. But Elena's silence cut deeper than the gossip. That night, she passed by his booth but said nothing. The next day, Darren submitted his resignation. When Elena received his email, she froze. She had been preparing a presentation, an initiative to promote Darren as the first engineer of a new tech division, proof that dedication mattered more than degrees. But now it was too late. That night, she walked to the parking garage. The booth was empty. On the desk sat the programming book she had once given him. Inside was a sticky note. Sometimes silence is louder than any answer. Her chest tightened. She had wanted to shield him from rumors. Instead, her silence had made him feel invisible. 4 nights passed before Elena found herself outside Darren's small Bronx apartment. His younger brother Mateo opened the door. "He's not here," Mateo said softly. "He transferred. Works nights at the Brooklyn docks now. No one there knows him." Elena swallowed hard. "Do you know his shift?" "Graveyard. Midnight to 6. That night, Elena drove to the docks. The air was damp, fog rolling over stacks of rusted containers. She spotted Darren sitting outside a booth, thermos by his side, programming book open under the glow of a small flashlight, just like the first night. "I hoped you'd still be using that flashlight," she said softly. His head lifted. Their eyes met. She stepped forward, holding out a folder wrapped in plastic. "A contract. Junior systems engineer. You earned it before I even knew your last name. I stayed quiet to protect you from gossip, but I realize now silence was the worst thing I could have given you." Darren studied her quietly. "I felt like I was being tested. And when you said nothing, I thought maybe I was just a project to you." Elena shook her head, voice trembling. "I admired you. Not out of pity. Out of respect. Respect starts with honesty. And I failed you there." For a long moment, only the wind moved through the yard. Finally, Darren set his book aside and stood. "You believed in me when no one else did. No one's ever done that." "I still do," Elena whispered. He reached out, slowly, and took the folder, then her hand. "I want the job," he said. "But more than that, I want this to be real. No more pretending." Elena's lips curved into a shaky smile. No more pretending. Snow fell lightly over Brooklyn as crowds gathered outside a new glass-and-brick building, Bright Path Technology Center. Inside, trainees filled classrooms with laughter and the clack of keyboards. On the walls hung photos of people holding their first certificates. Darren Lopez now wore a crisp blazer and an ID badge that read Lead Systems Engineer. His younger brother Mateo, once just a dreamer with a scholarship, now worked as an assistant instructor at the center. When it was time to speak, Elena introduced Darren to the crowd. "This center exists to remind us that potential doesn't disappear just because the world overlooks it. No one knows that better than Darren." Applause swelled. Darren stepped to the podium. His voice was steady. "I used to think I was just the guy in the booth with a flashlight. But someone believed in me. Enough for me to believe in myself. And now I want to pass that belief on." Across the room, Elena smiled, her heart full. Later, in her office overlooking the snowy skyline, Darren pinned a photo to the wall. Himself, 1 year ago, hunched under a flickering flashlight in the garage. He turned to Elena, who rested her hand on his shoulder. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "For them," Darren agreed. "And for us." Their kiss was quiet, unhurried, sealing not just love but the life they had built together, one that began with the faint light of a flashlight in a cold garage. Please subscribe the channel and like the video.